Hey, what's up everybody? Today we got a Titan exotic armor tier list. Will I be taking into account PvP? Yeah, probably barely. It's mostly PvE stuff. If I think an exotic is fun, it might get bumped up. If I like the look of it, it might get bumped up. This is just my opinion, so you know it's factually correct. Anyways, let's just get into it. Abhorrent Leap. When it came out and Suspend was like, the best thing in the game, it would have been S tier easily S tier. I'd move it down to B right now with how Suspend is and how if you're using Abhorrent Leap, you're not using Into the Fray Banner of War, which is probably just better in most situations. So we're going B tier for Abhorrent Leap. ACD Zero Feedback Fence. I haven't used it since it got reworked, except like one time, and I wasn't super impressed. C tier, like it does what it does, and what it does, it just isn't all that useful. Moving on, Actium War Rig. B tier. It does some really funny, goofy things, so it can go in B tier because it can be okay. But yeah, and as I said in a Hunter exotic tier list, putting the Aeons in B tier because they all do the exact same thing. The only difference is comparing it to the rest of the classes exotics. So honestly, if we're comparing it on Titan, it's C or D, but we're gonna stick to my word on that. Put it in B tier, but keep in mind compared to other Titan exotics, probably C or D. Insurmountable Skull Fort, pretty good. I'll put it in A tier. Is it fully deserving of that? Probably not. But, arc melee builds are strong, so it's not like the worst thing on earth. But yeah, it's solid, does what it's supposed to, and what it's supposed to do is pretty solid, especially with knockout being an aspect. Here we have Antaeus wards, right? That might be the wrong name. Again, this is mostly PvE. I know they got nerfed in PvP. I'll put them in C tier. They're just mid. They're not notably horrible, I think. I know they were broken for a long time, so I think they got S tier past 2 years. But they got hit, so bumping it down. It's also not great in PvE, so, it is what it is. Next, we have Arbor Warden. It's going in F tier. It's just bad. Pretty much anything that can make it better is already another exotic. So you can't wear two exotics, and one of them is a chest piece. Arbor Warden goes in F. Armamentarium. 2 grenades is nice, but I'm putting it in C tier. It does not really matter that much. Now, I'd like to say it is 2 of any grenade, but it's usually not that much more helpful than anything else. So C tier, in my opinion. It could do cool stuff, I know that, but it is what it is. Putting these babies, Ashen Wake, I think. Yeah, in B tier. Yeah, it only works on fusion aids, but they explode on impact, and they stun unstoppables, along with dealing extra damage. They're pretty nice, honestly. Like, they're pretty useful in the right context, so yeah, they can go in B tier for me. Cadmus Ridge Lance Cap, it breaks my heart to say, but D tier. I wish Stasis was better. It suffers from being Stasis. That's about all there is to say. Titan's Ramparts. This thing struggles from being too good at PvP at one point. So now in PvE, it kind of lacks. Putting it in C tier, I'm assuming it's still good in PvP. But like not what it used to be. Crest of Alpha Loopy, I'll put it in D tier. Orbs are not hard to make, so making extra orbs isn't that useful. It does some other stuff too, like it heals you on barrier casts, but like end of the day, Crest of Alpha Loopy has never really been at the top of the meta. It's been an interesting thing to put on because it's just straight up, you do things a little bit better, but it doesn't really enhance your gameplay in any sort of way. Yeah. Yeah. Just putting it S tier. Caress of the Falling Star. Better Thunder Crash. There's exotics I think are better than it, but I think it comfortably goes in S. Doomfang Pauldrons I'll put in C tier. Sentinel Shield is a super. It's one of the supers of all time. Using it as an ad clear super, it's immediately less effective than, Strand Titan. But yeah, it is a thing that exists. And this is like the less efficient way of using it. Now, of course, it does add the surges now, so I'll actually slide in B tier because you can, use void weapons without void surges. Put your surges on some other damage type. So I guess really it's not that bad. But, we'll go B tier, I guess. Dune Marchers. C tier. Mobility exotic, not bad. More of a PvP thing than PvE. Eternal Warrior. F tier. Still, after all the changes to it, I still think it's F tier. It is what it is. Yeah, I used to. What was this? It's not Burning Heart. Hearthfire? I don't fucking remember. Wow. C tier. It does stuff with sunspots and lets you make them and all that, which is great, but it doesn't do anything that cool with them. There's better exotics focused on your sunspots. So it can go in C tier. Heart of Inmost Light. It's still good. I'll move it in A tier. It's still really good. I just wouldn't say it's one of the peak Titan exotics right now, because now the more specified exotics are generally better, and a couple others that are more neutral. But yeah, it is what it is. Helm of Saint-14, putting in C tier. A bubble is just worse than well. So obviously this is worse than just having a plain old well. Basically. Hoarfrost Z. Where did I put Arbor Warden? D tier. Actually, I'll put this in C tier. It isn't that bad, really. It's like a second stasis grenade. In PvP, you can use it to lock down areas. PvE, you can use it for damage and blocking, I guess. But yeah, it has some neat stuff you can do. Even with ×4 stasis surge, which is one of the worst surges, in my opinion, Icefall mantles are still bad. Yeah, they're just bad. Stasis heavies generally are bad for damage. I guess on Stasis Fusion it would be good, but outside of that, it's just not great. Kepri's Horn. Even after buffs and changes, I still think it's F tier. It can do a couple tricks. That's about it. Lion Rampant. It's just a movement exotic. I'll put it in C tier. Nothing too fancy about it. Loreley Splendor Helm. Not as good as it used to be. I still put it in S tier. It's great for survivability. If you think you're going to die, you're not. So we'll go S tier on that, which feels a little wacky. But I think it's still S tier. I don't care what you have to say to me. I don't care if you threaten me. I don't give a shit, okay? F tier exotic. Mask of the Quiet One, F tier exotic. It requires you to be critical health to really get most of the use out of it. In high-end gameplay, it's terrible. And in low-level play, why would I use it over Heart of Inmost Light? It does the same thing, but better. Mask of the Quiet One is just kind of bad. There's one exotic that does everything it does, but better. Except for the healing. I'll give you that. But, there's better ways of doing that than, only doing it when you're critical health and doesn't even regenerate your shields. Mask of the Quiet One just kind of sucks a lot. Mark 44 Sandicides, D tier. They're also bad. I could probably shove it in F and it wouldn't affect me. So no backup plans? I'll put in B tier, actually. It's a pretty nice damage buff. It stacks with others, I believe. Used to, at least in Season of the Deep. But yeah, if you can keep up a Void Overshield, the Acreus damage would go nuts. So I'm fine with putting it in B tier. You know, it encourages you to keep up your Overshield and use high damaging shotguns. It can get it. Mask of the Quiet One. Not Mask of the Quiet One, One Eye Mask. I'll put it in D tier. Shell of its former self, really. Not that good anymore. Comfortable putting it in D tier. It's not that great. Peacekeepers, they got nerfed. I would have put them in S tier because of how good they are in PvP, but they got nerfed. So I'll put them in C tier. They're mid in both. Peregrine Greaves, actually S tier. Hear me out. One-shotting in PvP. Cool. Basically one-shotting or one-shotting champions. Very cool. And it's on a melee cooldown, not like a super cooldown or anything. It's a melee cooldown. S tier exotic. I love Peregrine Greaves. They're really fun. Don't use them often enough, honestly. Phoenix Cradle, I'll put in A tier. Crazy, I know. Great for the Crota encounter. Great for roll. Anything where the boss could destroy a well. I guess technically it's good in Root of Nightmares if you're not standing on the podium. Like, but why aren't you? But yeah, Phoenix Cradle is really good. People sleep on it because it wasn't useful for fucking 5 years, basically. Yeah, no, it's a solid pick, honestly. Go use Phoenix Cradles in Crota. You don't need well for Crota. Use these. Your teammates getting the benefits of sunspots, honestly, better than a well for Crota. He can't break sunspots. Fucking thunder fucker cannon, whatever this shit's called. I'll go A tier. Arc Titan just isn't as good as Solar or Strand Titan. So it, lacks there. But still very solid. I'll put Precious Scars in A tier. Not as good as Lordly Splendor, honestly, because you need kills to trigger it. But it's very good, and people sleep on it. Don't, Stasis Titan can do good damage sometimes. But it has low survivability. Using a stasis weapon with Precious Scars on a stasis subclass will give you restoration, which is one of the best keywords in the game, if not the best. So yeah, that's solid. Pyrogill Gauntlets I'll put in S tier. I think this should be the model for what all other super altering exotics are. It changes up how the super works and gives you a benefit to the neutral game that isn't just, you get your super faster, it does more damage and you get it faster. No, your concentrations do something different, which makes them actually, kind of usable. Not as good as the other two aspects, but, Second Chance, I'll put them next to Ash and Wake, basically. Breaking Barrier, they're good. They're probably better than Ash and Wake, I'm going to be honest. They're better. But, they're not that good. You're still on Void Titan, which is one of the worst subclasses for Titan. It's still not bad. I would say Void Titan's better than some Warlock subclasses, but it's probably the worst Titan subclass. But yeah. Oh, okay, other than Stasis. Completely forgot about Behemoth. Behemoth is probably the worst subclass in the game. But yeah, Second Chance can go to B tier because it's fine. Severance Enclosure! It does some cool things. It has some weird glitches and bugs with it that make it better, but it's C tier. It's not that great. Anything it can do, you could just use Synthoceps or Worm God's Caress and do the same thing with one melee. Rather than a melee and a bomb. And you get more benefits with these two. Severance Enclosure is not that good. Stronghold, A tier. Great survivability piece. I don't use it that often because, again, there's sometimes no use for it. So yeah, A tier. Synthoceps, S tier. Easy damage buff for your super and your melees. Strand Titan, go fucking crazy with it. Yeah, it's just good. Bonk Hammer too. Path of Burning Steps. We'll go D tier. There, I think, okay. In the final shape, where we're fighting enemies that actually have stasis more often, I think they'll be better because they help you get out of stasis faster. But, right now, when it's basically just, oh, you get a surge effect, and the like super niche case of you getting frozen or slowed, it's less. Yeah, it's not great. Ursa Furiosa. I'll go B tier. Again, it feels like I'm just throwing all the good void exotics in there. Actually, I'll throw Ursa's in A tier. Because Ursas are kind of slapping. Okay? They're not the greatest thing ever. They used to be like the Grandmaster meta, but they nerfed them in all the Super Generation exotics. Hopefully they give Ursa Furiosa some kind of benefit with the new Void aspect. If they do, it'll go crazy, and I think it might be the meta, especially if Well does catch a nerf. Like, Banner Shield is like a 40 or 45% buff. It's a lot more than Well and Bubble give. Sentinel Shield is good for a damage buff in raids, where you actually do more damage instead. So yeah, there's that. Worm God's Caress S tier. Probably better. It is better than Syntheseps right now. It's just, you have to have the brain cells to keep it going, which not everyone does. So I just use Syntheseps because it's easier, and my brain don't have to thinky. But yeah, this is my Titan exotic armor tier list. Next week I should be doing the Warlock armor. Then I'll get into the weapons. I think I'll do one for keywords. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Tell me where you agree and disagree. Anyways, you should know that this is objectively true. You should like, comment, and subscribe. Also, check out my pinned comment down below. I live stream like twice a week, like Tuesday, Wednesday, I think is what the schedule is for now. It'll probably change later, maybe more often. Who knows? I don't. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.